We are completed 7 lessons so far. Little feedback about yesterday's lessons, how to find mission in the mission. What were some of the highlights that stuck in your mind and still you're thinking about it, still trying to understand it better? Anything? Oh, Shri Shri Radha Vrindavan Bihari Ji Ki Jai.
Unless you can deliver your subordinate from the cycle of birth and death, you don't take that role, like parents or spiritual master.
Yeah, very strong, straight. There's no consideration. Either you're qualified, and if you're qualified, then you don't have to do it yourself, but you have to lead that person to the path of bhakti somehow. That's your duty. Okay, yes, Sri Devi.
What struck me most deeply, Guru Maharaj, was finding one's mission requires purification. To me, that was very, very.
Oh yeah, the 3 stages,
right.
passages.
Yes.
What was the other? Rites of
passage, devotional practices, and education and training.
Yeah.
Those.
Okay. 3 ways by which one has to reach some level of purification before they can actually be situated in bhakti. Rites of passage is first and second initiation. What was the second one?
Education and training is Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaibhav.
Yes, philosophical education to a certain level.
Devotional practices such as the morning program,
right.
Chanting, reading, associating,
following
serving.
Prabhupada's protocol for execution of devotional service. Yeah, good. Okay. Anything else? Make it short.
We need the right questions to advance in spiritual life.
You need to ask the right questions. Like, what's for lunch? That's not the exact one. That's the questions that you don't have to ask. Yeah, the right questions are, what's an example of the right questions?
Who am I?
No.
How can I serve?
That's the best question. How best can I serve? Yeah. Like that. Okay, anything else? We're doing a review on yesterday's lesson. Thank you.
Unless a spirit is trained according to their tendency, there is no possibility of developing this particular spirit.
Unless there is?
Unless a spirit is not trained according to their tendency,
Yeah.
there is no possibility of developing this particular, he cannot progress without that.
He can practice, but his progress will be very somewhat slow at best. Okay. All right, so today we get into a real, what we say, deeper aspect of bhakti. And this one's called to love is to cooperate. So people think of love in different ways. Someone asks you what would be the definition of love, you would come up with something, right? And everyone may have a little bit of a different thing. But love means to work together in a unified way to serve the Lord. That means love indicates sacrifice. There's no sacrifice, there's no love without sacrifice. Even in relationships, before one can actually exchange love, there has to be some sacrifice on both parts to please the other person, because love means to please the other person. And so in order to do that, there has to be some sacrifice. So cooperation, especially in Kali Yuga, is, we'll hear about that, it's just not there. It's just very difficult. Okay. Srila Prabhupada's well-known desire that we cooperate to spread Krishna consciousness to every town and village was more than a farewell request as he was preparing to leave the world. It was a theme he voiced continually during his 12 years of non-stop preaching around the globe. Yet in spite of Prabhupada's mandate that we work together, cooperation can be hard to find in the age of Kali or quarrel, where non-cooperation too often prevails. This key lesson on cooperation will see close up why cooperation can be so elusive, as well as what we can do to make it happen or to foster it. Okay, so slide number 2. Okay. Can anybody, I don't know where that is, but does anybody know? Where this particular place is? No? We'll find out. Sruti Kirti was here, he could tell us. But okay. So, who wants to read? Okay.
To serve cooperatively is the test of love. Your love for me, said Srila Prabhupada, will be shown by how much you cooperate to keep this institution together after I am gone.
Yeah, and so that was Prabhupada's statement, but in the same time, it's not just a farewell request, something that he emphasized throughout his... Okay. Okay, next.
But don't expect utopia.
Okay, don't expect utopia.
These are Prabhupada's words, Srila Prabhupada's words, Guru Maharaj? These are Srila Prabhupada's
These are Prabhupada's words, don't expect utopia.
He said this immediately after that?
No, but he was explaining to us, in your efforts to bring about Krishna consciousness, don't expect utopia.
Okay.
There will always be difficulties. Okay. For 7 years, Prabhupada had been training the members of KISKCON, GBC, to manage society after his departure. To help them feel the gravity of the responsibility, Prabhupada requested they all come to Vrindavan to witness the will. Someone suggested to Prabhupada, you should make a will. And Prabhupada agreed. And he said, now you should come to Vrindavan, I will make the will. Because they love you, said his secretary, I'm sure they will all want to be with you. Prabhupada was grave. Your love for me will be tested, shown by how much you cooperate to keep the institution together. Thesis, cooperate. Now I'll just read some. Despite Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's order to work conjointly without quarrel, the whole institution started to deteriorate. Their non-cooperation fragmented the whole Gaudiya Math and later disqualified most of them from helping Srila Prabhupada revive his mission in the West. Determined that non-cooperation not simply spoil his ISKCON, Srila Prabhupada often defined and tested his disciples' devotion in terms of their willingness to work together. When you do something in cooperation with the Lord, this is Prabhupada, that is bhakti. And the test of our actual dedication and sincerity to our spiritual master will be shown in the cooperated spirits, not by making factions or not by doing your own thing. So if Prabhupada's thesis was to cooperate, what is the antithesis? antithesis. Don't expect utopia. That's the antithesis. Okay. Okay, so. Someone read?
It is not so much that there may be some fault in our God brothers and God sisters, or because there may be some mismanagement or lack of cooperation, that this is due being impersonalists.
He's saying no. No.
Impersonalists, no.
He's saying, although there may be some lack of cooperation and mismanagement, it's not due to being impersonalists. So people were saying, devotees were saying, it's because we're acting in an impersonal way. Prabhupada said no. Okay, now he goes on to explain.
It is the nature of the living condition to always have some fault. Even in spiritual world, there is some fault and envy, but it is not the same as material fault or material envy. It is transcendental because it is all based on Krishna. Sometimes when one gopi would serve Krishna very nicely, the others would say, "Oh, she has done so nicely. Now let me do better for pleasing Krishna." That is envy, but it is transcendental without malice. So we shall not expect that anywhere there is any utopia, rather that is impersonalism, because devotees are persons. Therefore, there will always be some lacking, but the difference is that their lackings have become transcendental because their topmost intention is to serve Krishna.
So the main point is, everyone is trying to serve Krishna. There may be some lack of cooperation, there may be some differences of opinion, there may even be some obvious faults that come up, but still, there is still a cooperative spirit because everything is centered around Krishna. Just like we do the book distribution, and we sometimes make it into a competitive affair, where devotees go out and distribute books. So then we say, well, who's going to win this year? Who's going to be the top distributor? So the devotees get geared up for that. I want to be the best. And so they all make extra efforts to come up on the top, or at least close to the top. And what does it do? It spreads more books. It gives out more books, and it also, pleases the spiritual master, because it's all centered around, expanding the movement. So there's no personal motivation in there. Therefore, it's still within the realm of cooperation. But one person might, but if someone wins, you don't think, oh man, he won, I didn't. No, you think, wow, he did better, she did better than me. Wow, next year I'm going to beat her. So there's always a feeling of happiness to honor those who excel in their bhakti and their service. And at the same time, it's an inspiration for me to want to do better, to want to do more, not to give up or go away. So that's transcendental competition. And it's not like material competition where someone wins and someone loses. Everybody wins because Krishna is pleased. Any comments, questions about that? Yes? Raghupati?
In a situation where it can be a competition, is it not better to try to work together with the person so we excel together rather than...
It's not that it's just one way, but this competitive spirit is there because where's it coming from? Krishna. Krishna is always He always wins. But he likes to compete also. Just like when he's with his friends in Vrindavan, they compete sometimes in different games. And he tries to win, but sometimes he loses. So Krishna likes, that's the nature of the living entity, to want to be in a mood of trying to be better. But in the material world, it takes in the form of envy, malice, and various types of bad feelings that come by way of the activity. But in Krishna consciousness, it inspires more and greater service. But working together there also could be competition in working together too.
So as long as we have this competitive spirit,
It's there.
without envy and malice, Krishna is happy.
Yeah. And even if you are better than someone, you think, well, maybe I can teach that person or help that person to improve. So it's always in the mood of service.
And last question.
Yeah.
Is it wrong for us to, let's say I have a talent and I feel somebody is envious of my talent because they also have that talent?
Envious of your title?
Talent.
Talent.
Well, let's say we're both singers, but I can sing better than that person.
Yeah.
Is it wrong for me to withdraw and not sing because I feel they will be affected?
If you're feeling that way, no. But if you're feeling like you want to give that other person a chance to express his own talents, that would be devotional. But to pull back because it's your service and not do your service because someone else is feeling unhappy about your success, then you're no better than they are. In the absolute sense, yeah. But that'll be there. You can see, out of all of the qualities or negative qualities, envy is the most subtle and most strongest. Sometimes we think, oh, I'm not envious. I'm cool. I like everybody and everybody. But then all of a sudden something happens and you think, why didn't it happen to me? Why didn't I get that chance? I mean, this is a class in itself, the principle of envy. But when you look at it, you see that from the philosophical and from the absolute point of view, Krishna says, I am the ability in all living entities. So ultimately, Krishna is giving people the ability to do whatever they have to do, and that's coming from Krishna. Krishna says that. Rasoham apsakuntaya prabhasmi sarasurya pranava sarvavedeshu sabdike purusham nishu. I am the ability in all living beings. And he says, I give remembrance, I give knowledge, you want to forget, I can help you. So Krishna is there in all. So when we're envious of someone's success, we're actually saying, hey Krishna, you don't know what you're doing. You're giving that person all of that, and he doesn't deserve it, so you better check your records and go back and get trained from Radharani. She maybe can help you a little better. Yeah, it's like that. We're actually finding fault with Krishna when we're envious of someone else. Okay.
Hare Krishna. About cooperation. We can cooperate with many, but then some person come with another character, and it's very difficult.
Yeah.
I had this situation, but I think of myself, what is wrong with me? What anarthas coming out I found. So many things, but instead of this, I couldn't cooperate anymore. And
sometimes it's hard because it's mostly because of personality differences. Because people resonate with each other according to the level of similar natures. When natures are contrary, finds it difficult to develop relationships with people. And if you have to work together in Krishna consciousness, you'll find that. The natures are different. And natures are different because people want to approach it one way and someone wants to approach it another way. But when you're doing something in a group, there should be some type of leader who is conducting everything, who can help everyone participate without any, But if you're working with another person, that's one thing. But if you're working in a group, there should be always someone who's managing that affair. That way things can go on. If that's not there, then somehow you have to tolerate. And keep the focus on what you're trying to do rather than on the difficulties that come up.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, Risha. So just a little follow-up of what she was telling right now. When we say that the natures are different.
Yeah, you'll see that.
And that is why we are not sometimes able to cope, right? But then, does that not go to the level of body and soul? That we are not on the...
It's a body thing, it's not a soul thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because we recognize ourselves as body, we see that.
Yeah, nature. Yeah, but the scriptures also mention that for relationships, natures have to align, otherwise the relationships will not really develop. That's why a lot of times people get married. I mean, I know one couple, their relationship is, their natures are opposite. But somehow they've got beyond that. And somehow they're still together after 40 years, which is quite... But if you see them, I won't mention who they are, you'll see that he's one way and she's the other way. But somehow they work together. At least they've kept the marriage together, and they've also produced 3 very wonderful Krishna conscious children. So it's an extra effort. It's an extra effort. It's an extra effort when the natures are not there. But that's why they say when you're getting married or when you're developing friends, it should be with like-minded people. Nature and liking. That's ideal, but in Kali Yuga, we're also influenced by the age where things are somewhat turbulent.
Yeah. People come up for purification.
Yeah, that's it. Okay. Another question? Yeah, from... turn up the volume.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. So I wrote my question, Maharaj. If I'm doing something good and someone else feels like envious about it, so does that mean I will also be affected by it even though I'm not thinking like that? And will this karma back to me?
You're perceiving that they're feeling like that.
Yeah.
It could affect you, yeah. But you see, somehow you have to get beyond that. Mm-hmm. If you're doing the right thing, which you're supposed to, if you're doing the right thing and someone is not happy, then if you're doing the wrong thing or you're doing the right thing in the wrong way, then you may perceive some correction or some change that needs to be done. Yes, Dimple?
Thank you, Mike. I'm seeing increasingly in the UK, maybe it's elsewhere as well, where groups of devotees, they're doing wonderful service, really have so much faith in Srila Prabhupada, but they are concerned that devotees from their group will go and serve with another group.
They don't want to lose their group.
And how to deal with that? Because there's millions of people that we need to serve. We're all trying to reach in different ways.
Well, people are individuals, they can choose. A person will choose because they're to leave a particular group because they feel like they can maybe contribute better to another group, or they feel more happier working with these other persons, or they like the project better. There may be different reasons why people move out. I don't think you can prevent that. You might say, strengthen the quality of whatever you're doing, and that'll help to keep the people you have. That's all I can think of. Yes, Krishna Chaitanya. No, she's always on. You can go. She knows she can actually give this class, you know. So.
Krishna Prabhupada, just a question. Spiritually, let's say we are not envious, we are willing to tolerate other devotees, willing to learn from them. Even taking a slack from devotees, we take it as a blessing. But let's say materially we are very envious. So spiritually we are not, but materially we are envious. Is that some kind of problem? Or if so, how do we address this?
You mean someone's better in doing something materially?
Yeah.
Or you would rather be doing it and not them? That's pretty much how it looks like. Well, you can realize that, see, one of the reasons why we become, or we're afflicted with envy, is we're not satisfied within ourselves. We don't realize how much Krishna has given us, and how much we don't take full advantage of all the mercy that we receive from him, or from the spiritual master. So a person who is satisfied within themselves, they're not looking out towards another person's activities as being something better than them. They're satisfied. They can learn from someone else like that. But in the material world, envy is everywhere. That's the only way the material world goes on. Gaur Gopal wrote one book, and in it he describes one story where one person was really expert at doing his work, and the rest of the co-workers got envious, and so they snuck into his office and stole his material. Yeah. In fact, just yesterday, I got a letter from someone who said, I just joined a job, and after 2 weeks, they fired me. There was no reason why they fired me. And then he understood, I'm better than even the manager in terms of the work, and he's thinking, if this guy progresses, he's going to take my position. So they fired him. They didn't give him any reason. They said, we just can't use you. That's all. So he was telling me this, that yeah, because he's more expert than on the job than even the person who was conducting it, they're afraid that he'll take a better position or push them out of their position. Now that's the material world. It's full of envy. That's why the soul falls to the material world, because the initial sin is envious of God. And then it just continues here. Learning to be self-satisfied through the process of bhakti will help to overcome these negative feelings. Whatever, Krishna's given me so much, I'm satisfied. And even if he doesn't give it to me, still I can serve. To be satisfied but what Krishna's giving you, the mercy he's showing you, the opportunities you have, just to be satisfied. One person used to say, somebody would like to be like someone else. So this person would say, he would say, be yourself because every other position is already taken. where else are you going to go except where you are? So, be happy or be satisfied and understand how much your mercy you're receiving from Krishna. If we don't take advantage of that and use it for our own development, then we might start looking outward for something different, something better, and finding fault with others. And that's why people feel like that. Each soul is Sat Chit Ananda.
I read that said to be satisfied is our duty.
Satisfaction is one of the austerities of the mind. It's recommended in the Bhagavad Gita to be satisfied. Not to the point where you don't do anything. Satisfied in yourself, but at the same time you're still trying to practice Krishna consciousness in a way that you grow. There's another element that's called dissatisfaction in satisfaction. I'm satisfied, but I want to do more. I want to do better. But still, I'm satisfied where I am. Because, as one, I think, Srutakirti can tell you about his wife. When his wife was dying, she said, I have no problem because Krishna loves me. She felt the love of Krishna, so she said, that's all I need is Krishna's love. I don't care about anything else. So that's true for everyone. Krishna loves everyone. We have to open ourselves up to his love.
The point you just made about dissatisfaction in satisfaction, so is that a good thing because
you're
satisfied but
you
want to do better?
Who can mention a particular text where that is being shown?
What's being shown?
Huh?
What's being shown?
There was a great soul who was satisfied, but at the same time not satisfied. There is a particular shastra that describes his life.
Yesterday.
Huh?
Yesterday.
Well, that's pretty close, but that's not the one I'm thinking of. Vyasadeva wasn't satisfied. This person was satisfied, but he hadn't reached the perfection of satisfaction. Therefore, on whatever level of satisfaction he attained, he wanted to go to a higher level. And that was Gopakumara. Gopakumara. He made it to Vaikuntha, and he was there with Narayan. And Narayan showed him a lot of affection, but still, he wanted Krishna. Although he was happy with Narayan, he wanted Krishna. So he had to come back to the material world and then take up that bhakti that would bring him to Goloka Vrindavan. Mm-hmm. That's a good example of dissatisfaction within satisfaction.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Guru Maharaj, I'm just meditating a little bit on what several devotees have said, Raghupati, Rasavilasini, about sensing another's envy or sensing some dissatisfaction from others. And I'm thinking that I have blind spots where I do not perceive, or rather I don't pick up on maybe cues that I should to understand that I'm dissatisfying someone or making them unhappy with my speech or behavior. And after many days have gone, suddenly I think, oh, in that interaction, maybe I said or did something wrong.
Yeah, I do that too also.
And so how to erase this blind spot so that I can pick it up and make amends or not do that?
You just have to practice.
Oh.
You just have to practice in your speech, in your activity, and also see how people are receiving or not receiving what you're giving.
Mm.
But when you're around a pure devotee, you get the biggest mirror. The pure devotees give you the mirror that it just shows you right away you're off. The other devotees may not even say anything or just be tolerant or just go on, but when you're with a pure devotee, you can't do it. Because the purity will also reflect your impurity. I have personal experience with that. From the point of looking back and just checking again. But you can also pray to Krishna. Pray to Krishna to help you act in such a way that will be pleasing.
Yes.
Yeah, that you can do.
Yes, I can. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. I can use myself as an example, but I'm not going to because it's not going to be so easy to speak this one. All right, let's go on to the next one. So, all right, I'll read some. The devotees of Krishna are the most exalted people on the planet. This is from Prabhupada. He's talking. Better than kings, all of them. So we should always remember that, and like the bumblebee, always look for the nectar and the best qualities of a person. Not like the utopians, who are like the flies, who always go for the open source or find the faults in a person. And because they cannot find any utopia, or because they cannot find anyone without faults, they want to become void, merge, nothing. They think that is utopia, to become void of personality. That's a letter written by Prabhupada to Treya Rish. So if Prabhupada's thesis is to cooperate, and his antithesis is don't expect utopia, then what is the synthesis? The synthesis, because when you have thesis and antithesis, the next thing is synthesis, right? That's philosophy. Rajni, you want to sit in the chair? Rajni? Hare Krishna? You want to sit in the chair? Okay. It may be hard to sit on the floor. Okay. Okay. So, here's the synthesis.
Find unity in diversity. The materialist cannot come into agreement with varieties. But if we keep Krishna in the center, then there will be agreement in varieties. This is called unity in diversity. I am therefore suggesting that all our men meet in Mayapur every year during the birth anniversary of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. With all GBC and senior men present, we should discuss how to make unity in diversity.
Prabhupada's not assuming or saying, he said we should discuss it. How to do it in our very multi-variegated society where there's so many activities and so many ideas, how to do it. So he didn't say, well, this is it. Okay. Since achieving unity and diversity is the key to cooperation, Prabhupada's measure of love for him, we need to dig deeper into his life, teachings, and mission to find. We need to identify timeless, universal principles whose details will vary according to time, place, and country. What is possible in one country may not be possible in another country. What is possible and maybe in Western style countries may not be possible in India. It is not necessary that the rules and regulations followed in India be exactly as those in Europe, America, and other Western countries. What is required is a special technique according to country, time, and candidate. That's from Srimad Chaitanya Charitamrita. Okay. So then Shruta Kirti talked about that yesterday when he talked about how Prabhupada had made that adjustment, allowing women to take equal part within temple worship, which was not done in India, and how Prabhupada said that I have become successful because of that. And then Shruta Kirti's question was, well, how do we know? And Prabhupada said that is a detail. And Prabhupada, then he said, we can't change principles, but details are adjustable, time, place, country, candidate. And then, so then he asked, and Prabhupada said, that requires intelligence. So he didn't give a long explanation. In other words, it requires great intelligence and a lot of heart to understand how to make adjustments. But that's not for everyone. That's usually done by the spiritual masters like that. An acharya should devise a means by which people may somehow or other come to Krishna consciousness. First, they come, then you give them the rules and regulations. It's not that you preach rules and regulations and then invite people to take part. When Prabhupada started, he didn't give anything. He just gave prasadam and himself, talked about Krishna from the Shastras, had a little kirtan, and there was no rules and regulations. Only when someone asked, they said, Swamiji, sometimes you speak about rules and regulations, so what are they? He said, well, I was waiting for someone to ask. Then he gave it. And then he wrote, we did that in the previous, he wrote the 4 regulative principles. But he not only wrote them, but he explained each one according to the different details. Like that, yeah. Here's an instance, I'll give you an example. Many devotees used to chant 64 rounds in the Gaudiya Math, Bhakti Siddhartha's mission. Despite Prabhupada suggesting fewer rounds to his first followers, first 32, then 25, they look perplexed. They said to Prabhupada, that will take forever, 32 rounds. Prabhupada then declared 16 rounds as the rock bottom, and then that was a requirement for initiation. So Prabhupada did that, he was experimenting. First he gave them 32 to see if they would accept and then also execute it. They didn't, so then he dropped it down. So this was in the beginning in establishing, just to see where he could start. But you listen to Prabhupada's classes, his lectures, read his books, he says 16 rounds is just to get you started. He's emphasized chant more, but he made the minimum requirement for practicing within the society as 16 rounds. But that was experimental. He said 32 first. Just to see if the devotees could do it or would do it. They would. Yeah. So this is techniques in order to bring people in. So when you're preaching, best to just tell them, you know, a little bit about what we do and how they can benefit from him, and not give them so many restrictions, rules, regulations, requirements. For instance, what is one country in the world, there's many, but there's one I know of, it's Greece. And devotees had a hard time preaching in Greece. Difficult, you don't even find much results today. Because anytime they mentioned any of the 4 regulative principles, in the middle of the class, in a lecture, wherever the people are, they get up and leave. They didn't like the 4 regulative principles at all. So it was difficult to really establish anything there, because they just didn't want it. So what can you do? Tell them to chant Hare Krishna, that's all you can do. and just maybe do some service. But they know, at least theoretically, that they're not up to the standard. It's a preaching tactic, that's all. And that's what we're talking a lot about here. Okay, finding unity in diversity. Someone read?
Unite around principles, diversify the details. The teacher, Acharya, has considered time, candidate and country. What is possible in one country may not be possible in another. The Acharya's duty is to accept the essence of devotional service. It is not necessary that the rules and regulations follow in India be exact, the same as those in Europe, America and other Western countries. What is required is a special technique according to country, time and candidate.
I think we just covered that, but this is, so you're hearing it now, and it's actually there in Chaitanya Charitamrita.
In the silence that followed, his assistant, Shrutakirta Prabhu, felt compelled to ask Prabhupada, how can we tell the difference between making an adjustment and changing a principle? Prabhupada closed his eyes and Shrutakirta continued to rub his body. Finally, he opened his eyes and responded, that requires a little intelligence.
That's all.
Guru Maharaj, may I request we go back a couple of slides?
Go back?
Yeah, 2 slides. Now, this is in Chaitanya.
This one here?
Yeah. When Srila Prabhupada writes this,
Get your microphone there.
Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela, when Srila Prabhupada writes this is specially for Harina or it's for the whole process of devotional service?
It seems like it's a preaching tactic, or falls within that category. It seems like it. But when it comes to the basics, that's worldwide. But then again, for instance, food. You know, there are people who say we should eat only what Prabhupada taught us. Generally, the cuisine that comes from India. But Prabhupada never pushed that. Even in the early days, he said, as long as it's free from the, animal ingredients, and it's offerable, then you can offer it like that. That's an example, food. Or what would be another example that's a cultural difference? Anyone?
Maybe instruments? Some countries may not have the doorbell.
Instruments? Yeah, Prabhupada allowed that, but in the temple he didn't allow it. He wanted just mridanga, kartals, of course, and harmonium, like that. But outside, you got just like I was in Mayapur and I was sitting next to a devotee who was playing what was he playing? The tabla. No, not tablas. The string instrument, what is that called?
Guitar.
Huh?
Sitar.
Sitar, yeah. Yeah, sitar, very nice. That was part of the kirtan. It was nice. And there's people who play the bass guitar, That happens in a lot of our. So, fine. But don't play a didgeridoo. Nobody knows what a didgeridoo is. You do, huh? You know what a didgeridoo is?
Australian.
Yeah, Australian instrument. You can't even carry it, it's so big. Now they have this thing with the hitting the boxes, like. I've seen that being used. But mostly those things are used for outside preaching, like that.
One stark example, I guess, in India is like women are not allowed on the altar even in ISKCON temples. Is that a cultural?
Women are not allowed on the altar?
Well, we don't see women on the altar in Indian temples.
In India, yeah, in India they're not. Yeah, you don't see that.
And is that so that ISKCON is more accepted in India because of the culture in India?
They say, yeah, but I don't know if Prabhupada would approve of that. Because when we tried to prevent, that happened in the West, we tried to prevent ladies from going on the altar. Or even ladies sitting together in the japa periods in the temple. Prabhupada was completely against that. But a lot of marriages are made on the altar, you know that. Shit. I'm serious. That's where it starts. Because it's very intimate there. So, I mean, we have to be aware of that also. Yes.
I just want to add that I remember even when I was a child, in our houses, our relatives and our caste system, usually when it comes to even home worship, men used to do it. So even at home, there were rules that we can set up everything, but men used to.
I think that's some kind of Hindu thing.
Maybe because it's a message in cycles.
At home, why would there be any restriction? Everyone is part of the same family, and they should all have a chance to worship. I mean, that's a family thing. What do you think, Krishna Chaitanya? You're as traditional as we can get here. You can give all of his insights into that one.
I have no idea.
Yeah, you didn't want to commit yourself. Okay, I understand. Yeah, so I don't agree with that, but I mean that's somehow just goes on.
That's because the deity worship even at home that doesn't get interrupted because
If it works better like that, maybe that's why it's being done like that.
Because if women are doing, they go off the altar. So.
But I see in certain situations where the men go out for the day and the lady is home and she's taking care of the deity.
It works more with the cooperation, specifically at homes for deity worship. It works with the cooperation. I don't have deities at home, but I've seen my friends who have. So sometimes, as said, somebody's traveling, so you step out, the children step out for that.
that is our now.
I feel that is in the newer generation. This old generation people, women hardly used to travel.
But don't worry about the old guys, they're gone.
I'm just telling about in the previous time.
Yeah.
Things are already changed.
They're gone.
I can remember, Guru Maharaj, that my grandparents were, my grandfathers were very much in charge of the deity worship. But the next generation, my father really couldn't be bothered, so my mother just did all the deity worship.
He was too busy making money.
Right, that's it. Yeah. Well, my mother did everything.
Yeah, but that's a kind of a default program. When I can't do it, all right, you can do it. But doesn't show any kind of equality there.
Guru Maharaj,
was it in Vedic times, was it because the wife would benefit from the husband's sadhana, so she didn't have to do the worship?
That's there. Yeah. It says the wife gets 50% of the husband's spiritual progress. That's there.
Not anymore though, is it?
No, it's still true.
Really?
That's Shastra. That's why if a wife supports the husband, she's supporting herself. That's Shastra. That's not something that we just made up.
But what about vice versa, Guru Maharaj? The wife benefits from the husband. She gets 50% of the spiritual credits. What about the other way around?
The other
The
50.
wife, does the husband get 50% of the benefits?
He gets the service, she does. She cooks for him, she makes sure that he has whatever he needs to do, whatever he has to do.
No, I'm specifically talking about spiritual practices. When she's practicing devotional life and he isn't, is he getting 50% of the benefit?
It doesn't say that anywhere.
Doesn't say?
It doesn't say that anywhere. But obviously, because he's connected with her, he's getting some agyata sukriti.
Okay. There's hope.
He's getting gyata sukriti. Anyone that's connected with a person who is connected to Krishna is also getting benefit, although they may not be aware of it. And then, but slowly they're becoming transformed. Like that. Okay, so let's see. We went through this here. Okay, who's that at the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya?
Humility. Humility helps.
Mm-hmm. No? It's one of the Goswamis. Sanatana Goswami. Since you possess Lord Krishna's potency, Lord Chaitanya said to his disciple, you certainly know these things. In other words, he was asking questions. However, it is the nature of a sadhu to inquire. Although he knows things, the sadhu inquires for the sake of strictness, not only for the benefit of others, but for his own strictness he inquires. Prabhupada wrote no commentary to the... Let's see where this goes. We can see what the next slide is. Okay.
Love is to cooperate. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is God himself, Krishna himself. He fell alone, unable to do this task. He fell. So this is the position. You are cooperating, therefore I am getting the credit. Otherwise, alone, what could I do? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself wanted our cooperation. He is God, Krishna, and therefore cooperation is very important. Nobody should think that I have got so great ability, I can do. No, it is simply by cooperation we can do every very big thing. United we stand, divided we fall. Sankirtan. Sankirtan means many men combined together chanting. This is Sankirtan. Otherwise, Kirtan. Sankirtan means many, many combined together. That is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission.
Yes. Okay, that's it. And that one. So, cooperation, and as we help someone, we're helping ourselves. When we're serving others, we're actually benefiting ourselves. When we cooperate, we're actually making our own Krishna consciousness stronger. Because one of the principles that has been emphasized but not directly stated was that when Krishna sees devotees cooperating, he really pours his mercy. And things become so easy. It's like you don't do anything anymore, anything. It just happens. So this cooperation is so, what's the word? so effective that it motivates Krishna to give more and more mercy. But then we see the dynamics of cooperation. Thesis, antithesis, and sentences. Learning the unity and diversity. Okay. So before we get into the last questions, let's do the questions here, and then we'll get your question. Okay, so here we go. This is a recap of the lesson. Someone?
Recall what Sri Prabhupada said would be the proof of our love for him after he departed this world.
Okay. What did Prabhupada say would be the proof that how he can show our love?
To cooperate and keep the institution together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, keep cooperation by keeping the institution together. Prabhupada told us, I remember that statement when he was leaving, he said, should at least maintain what I started. You may not be able to expand it, but at least don't destroy what I set up. Because he knew Westerners, he knew we had the tendency to change for the sake of change. That's the Western disease. Now it's spilled into India. But India usually is more traditional in the way they live life. Sometimes they get so stuck in the past they don't even see the need for change. But it's not so much part of the culture to change. But in the West, that's all people do is change. Why? Because change means I'm improving it, I'm doing something better, I'm doing something different, something new, and it becomes more enjoyable, exciting, like that. Change for the sake of change. So Prabhupada, he made a statement. He said, this is a facetious statement. He said, walk on your hands, but whatever you do, change. He said, this is the disease. But walk on your hand. In other words, just do something different. But that doesn't work when you're trying to develop your Krishna consciousness. That's why continue concentration and absorption in everything you do brings out the benefit of that activity, such as reading, chanting, serving. Becomes better and better as you do the same thing over and over again with attention. You're an artist, you know that, right? When you work with detail, you start to see more and more reasons for detail, right? And that doesn't change the essence, it just enhances everything. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah.
Explain why Srila Prabhupada said we shouldn't expect utopia.
I feel Sri Prabhupada knew what was coming, and he was cautioning about cooperation to keep things as they are, but also not to expect anything wonderful.
No, he showed by example that even in the spiritual world, there is apparently some type of envy, but that is transcendental. So, he said there may be some fault, there may be some mismanagement. That's the nature of living conditions, to always have faults. The only persons that don't have faults are the pure devotees. They're above material energy. But as long as we're not purified, There's always some fault. What are the four defects of the conditioned souls? Who knows? This was not mentioned in the lesson.
It's to fall into illusion, to do mistakes.
To make mistakes, to be illusioned.
To cheat.
Cheat.
And the imperfection of senses.
Because our senses are imperfect, we fall into illusion. Because we fall into illusion, we make mistakes. And because we make mistakes and we don't like it, we cheat. So there's a progression there also. Cheating propensity is very strong in a conditioned soul. To present themselves as something different than what they are. Okay.
Identify what Srila Prabhupada meant by unity in diversity.
Is it because we are personable and we're not impersonalists? So each person has his own qualities and differences. By working together cooperatively, then we have unity and diversity.
What is the unity?
We keep Krishna at the center.
Okay, and what is the diversity?
Our individualism.
Well, how to explain that?
All have different qualities that we can use to serve the Lord.
That's there, but that's not the diversity that we're talking about.
Different cultures, different countries.
Hmm?
Different cultures, different countries, different ways of looking at how to do that.
That's where it's exasperated. But what is that different? What is that differences?
Unity around the principles and diversity in the details. Diversify the details.
That's really stretching it. The diversity is that I like to serve this way, you serve this way. We all have different ideas on how best to serve, and they can all be amalgamated because it's all directed towards Krishna. So
Put Krishna in the center.
that's the unity.
Yes.
The diversity is the ways of services can go on. I think book distribution is the most important. I think Harinam is the most important. I think, deity worship is the most important. The Prabhupada also said like that. Sometimes he said, this is most important, and he said something else is most important. But what he was saying is they're all important. But on an individual basis, one may incline to one way or the other, and that may also cause some disagreement. But because the disagreement is not actually manifested in the sense that each person wants to serve Krishna, and that's the point. That's the unity. Yes, Sri Devi. You're sitting like a yogi, huh?
Just trying to. Guru Maharaj, I mean, my observation is this, that leadership becomes very important for uniting people. Because even people who are strongly opinionated or have very fixed ideas, when a leader earns the loyalty of those people, he or she can amalgamate them into a team. Like Radhanath Maharaj's disciples, look what all they are doing, it's wonderful. I've seen Vishwarup Prabhu, when he and his team take the people on Yatra, how united they are. So I think leadership is a very important factor in creating unity.
Yeah. Leadership gives direction. It gives vision, gives direction. It tells people what to aspire for in terms of different things that we can achieve, and also it gives direction on how to carry it out. Leadership is fundamental.
So are we nurturing leadership in ISKCON? Are we, having that vision that unless we nurture the next generation of leaders, how will this movement go on?
That's what we're doing. At GBC College was here for a week. And every year there's a whole group of people who are training to become leaders in our society. So there's classes on leadership, there's seminars on leadership, there's requirements for certain persons who are taking positions to go through courses that contain the principles of leadership.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, Raghu.
In a situation where a leader may not be able to create unity within the community, how can somebody...
And things break down.
But then how can someone who may be junior to the leader and not necessarily a leader by nature create trust within the community to have unity? Does that make sense?
Well, he's not in a position of leadership, so he can't speak from that point of authority. But on an individual basis, he can try to make a difference by working on a one-to-one basis. That's the best he can do. But when the leader is not up to standard, then everything falls apart. Generally, that's what happens. Okay. Oops. What did I do? Pushed the wrong button. Okay. I think we just did that. We answered that question in the discussion. Okay. Next one.
Recall how Srila Prabhupada determined the relative application of a universal principle.
What did he say?
There was a quote where he said it's not necessary that the rules and regulations followed in India, for example, would be the same as that in Europe.
Right. Right. Different cultures may also be, there's some variations. Yeah. Good. Okay.
Recall why Srila Prabhupada said cooperation was so important for spreading Krishna consciousness.
Anyone?
It relates to the fundamental principles, procedures laid by Sri Prabhupada. Only through cooperation can those be maintained. And I think this is like his appeal that cooperation will lead to maintaining the standard or the principles he set.
Yeah, that's... Well, he made the, what was that example that he gave? From the Shastra. The question's there. Why cooperation is important in spreading Krishna consciousness? Who was the person who was asking for cooperation?
Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah, but who else? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu?
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, yes.
Yeah.
Because Srila Prabhupada saw it himself when the Gaudiya Math broke up because there was no cooperation and there was therefore no unity to follow Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj's directive.
Yeah, nobody could even support Srila Prabhupada either.
Right. So having seen that, Prabhupada knew that for our institution to continue, we have to do things differently, and that means unity and cooperation.
Yeah. All this is part of unity and diversity. Okay, because we're right at the end here. We only have 15-minute break today, and then Shruti Kirti will come in. Let's get to the last, is that the last question? I think it was. Okay, Shri Shri Radha Vrindavan Bihari Ji Ki Jai. All right, thank you. So, any last questions? Anybody? Just want to, yeah, you, okay. Those that want to go for a break, you can. You have to 11:45.
I think one of the second last or third last slide was on humility and with Sanatana Goswami. I didn't quite catch what that was about in relation to the topic of cooperation. If you could expand on that, please.
Let me check it. A person will understand and know what to do, but still for the sake of strictness they will inquire. So, strict in remembering the absolute. In other words, one should not think they know everything. Therefore, even if they think they know, they inquire for the sake of strictness. That was that. Strictness. A devotee, just like sometimes the senior devotees don't think it's important to hear from other senior devotees. And certain senior devotees don't think it's important to hear from other senior devotees. I see that too.
Some seniors think it's not important to hear from other senior devotees.
I see that. But there's others who are in that category, and they just take every opportunity to hear from others. For the sake of strictness, like that, for the sake of gaining more knowledge. Okay? All right, so take a little break. Is there anything, do you have any refreshments out there? What do you have? Pizza and popcorn? No?